Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Thursday update, recorded on the 6th of March. We've got a colder change moving up the country at the moment. You can see the southerly flow between the low pressure zone off to the east of the North Island and the incoming high down near Australia. Between the two, a southerly flow. That's why it was a pretty cool morning this morning around the top of the North Island, and even a light frost through the interior of the South Island through the higher elevation areas. But that southerly flow is going to fade out for many places as the high tries to move on in over the next couple of days. Here is a 7-day departure from normal map brought to you by Resupply. This shows you for this time of the year, is it wetter or drier than usual? So in the red shading, those areas in the red-pink shading, drier than usual. The only areas you see in the white, which is getting closer to normal, maybe a little bit of blue even around the eastern North Island, thanks to that wet weather moving up the country at the moment, and perhaps another southerly coming up in the next week that'll bring in a few showers. And obviously you can see Alfred over here, currently a cyclone off Brisbane, and the leftovers should come out in the southeastern corner of Australia. That might bring in some showers to Fiordland and the west coast, but it's definitely not locked in. So mostly dry for New Zealand. Here is the actual forecast. So you can see here how enormous this high pressure zone is south of Australia. It stretches all the way over to Western Australia, all the way over to New Zealand, and all the way up to about Fiji. And it's this ballooning out area over the Tasman and north of the country that's keeping our friend Alfred away from New Zealand. And so naturally it would be pulling towards us, but this high pressure zone coming through and blocking it from that happening. And that's why we've got that southerly at the moment. Continues on Friday, couple of isolated showers around the place, otherwise mostly dry to end the week. Into the weekend now, the second weekend of March, and here comes the next cold change. Cold change, it's not major, but it's autumn. It feels autumnal, one of my favorite words. And you're seeing the wet weather coming through, and it's mostly hugging the eastern side. That's because the high pressure zone out of Australia, bulldozing it in across like that, pushing it eastwards. And so the wet weather comes into Southland and kind of curves around parts of Canterbury. I mean, there'll be a little bit on the west coast, not a lot. And if you're up around coastal Waikato, maybe Taranaki and Auckland, you're seeing a few showers just come out of that southwesterly flow. Maybe a few showers reaching Wellington and Wairarapa into the afternoon. So Sunday, those showers move up around the eastern side as the high pressure zone continues to bulldoze its way in, pushes out the showers for much of the South Island. Around the North Island, just a small area of low pressure off East Cape that just helps carry that southeasterly on with a little bit of wet weather. It doesn't look overly wet, but as far as your Sunday's concerned, there'll be showers around the eastern North Island, and of course that southeasterly, usually very sunny and warm for everybody else on the western sides and further up the country. So let's get into next week. So the high pressure system crosses over New Zealand. The top end of it around the North Island, still up around Gisborne, maybe up around Whangarei and parts of Coromandel and Great Barrier Island, caught up in that showery southeasterly. So a few showers there for you. On the west coast, bit cloudy, maybe a bit of drizzle around as a result of that little patch there that's stuck in between. Otherwise, things are looking pretty calm around New Zealand, cooler mornings and mild afternoons. The remnants of Alfred over here around New South Wales. So as we go into Tuesday next week, there's the next southerly. Classic sign that we're in autumn when you start to get these cold fronts coming through 2-3 times a week. Now they're not major ones for the most part, but this one on Tuesday will be colder than the last one. And that's because the next high pressure zone, that's a really big one, 1037 hectopascals, that stretches all the way up into Australia, all the way down to Antarctica. So that is blocking off most of the southerly storms. But that southern placement scoops up and drags up that colder air, that sub-Antarctic airflow. And that's what comes in here on Tuesday, briefly. Brings in a bit of a temperature drop, a windy burst of weather, possibly around Otago Peninsula and Dunedin itself. Might be a few thunderstorms too as we transition out of that warm weather to the cooler change. Further northwards though, windy nor'westers around Wellington and up the North Island. That'll make for a fairly warm to hot Tuesday afternoon, and those winds, they're pretty light further up around the North Island. And that enormous high, which stretches up into the tropics on Wednesday and all the way down to the Southern Ocean, that starts to move in. That's why that departure from normal map is so dry at the moment, because the showers, yes, they're coming in along the eastern side, but the high pressure systems are definitely dominating at the moment, and that is keeping our skies very dry. and no sort of immediate change coming for this forecast, because this high, middle of next week, still has to track on through. But there are some tropical lows up here to keep an eye on, so we're not completely ignoring that one northeast of New Zealand. Neither are we ignoring all the low pressure forming around Australia. But for us to get a chance, it needs to, the next high over the Indian Ocean needs to just wait and allow for some low pressure to form in between them. That is not happening at this stage. So most places are going to get drier than they already are now by the time we get to this time next week. So hopefully we can find some more rain relief for you as we get later into the month. Usually by April, we do start to see the high pressure systems breaking up, but we're not ready to lock that in this far out. That's all from me for today. Catch us tomorrow, Friday, for our 7-day rain watch update. We'll take a closer look at rainfall around New Zealand. We'll catch you then.